Nice. That's one of them new Ben Franklins you count there, baby pop.
You don't stop.
Gotta get that money.
You don't stop.
Oh man, this is how we do it. East, West.
What up, people? So just finished my workout, so I may sound a little out of breath. That's for a reason. But today I wanted to get on here and talk about what she brings to the table, what a lot of women bring to the table. Some of this is not necessarily their fault. It's just kind of how they're built and how they're wired. So 3 things today just to be aware of and maybe why that shit is happening. So number 1 is going to be she usually brings poor communication skills to the table. All right. So why most women bring poor communication skills to the table is because a lot of them are not taught how to properly communicate. They are taught to express their emotion. They are taught to vent. They are taught to talk and chatter, but not necessarily how to effectively communicate. So when they need to get their point across or they're feeling some type of way emotionally, as women, or as most women, as young girls growing up, they're not taught to move through with reason, or if they are taught reasoning and logic, it's from a very extreme place to where people are trying to get them to shut off their emotions and maybe raise them like little boys in a sense, in a societal sense when we talk about raising boys. But you know, it's very extreme teaching when it comes to communication. So you either have, most of the time, you either get a woman who talks a lot, but she's not really effectively communicating or getting her point across, or she may be getting a point across, but it's coming off super abrasive or at times inconsistent or aloof with her messaging. So it's a struggle. Or you get women who choose not to really communicate at all because they're used to being so much better than the guys that they're dating, or they've been taught that men are just to be used as pawns or as objects or financial gain, or they have some stigma embedded that, you know, all men ain't shit or there's no good men in the world. So they never really develop this skill. Also too, a lot of women, along with young men, have been raised by their mothers. So it's kind of a repeating cycle or pattern of behavior, if you will, in regards to, you got women who don't know how to communicate properly, teaching young women, you know, these same skills or lack of skills. So you kind of, you know, get the same effect from generation to generation or person to person, just whatever. So that's one thing that you're going to encounter, as far as what she's going to be able to bring to the table. So most of the time you're going to get poor communication skills. How you get around this is, you as the man, you have to bring a high amount of reasoning and logical explanation. But in order to do that, you have to have really high self-awareness, and you really have to know how to communicate your points effectively, or y'all both just look like 2 catty females or 2 catty, you know, people with high amounts of feminine energy fighting and, you know, bickering all the damn time. All right. Another thing that you're going to have to worry about is the fact that she's going to have, or most women have, very low self-awareness. This is because, you know, as women, or women, as young women, young ladies, young girls, they are taught, or they are raised in ways of groupthink. So what that means is that they are taught to follow the collective. They are taught that there's a right and wrong way of doing things. They are taught and raised more in the concept of good and bad versus true and false. And, you know, even if they go through the levels of reasoning and decision making, which we talk about in other videos, which is data, true, false, and good and bad, you have a lot of women that they may take the data, but they may take that data and go straight to good and bad instead of taking that data and then moving to true, false, and then good, bad. And then, of course, the majority of women who have not been taught any skills at all, they go straight to good, bad. So something happens and they make a good, bad judgment or good, bad conclusion, and then that's it. So you get a lot of women, you know, for lack of a better term, hamster on the wheel when it comes to relationships, and you know, they tend to have the same issues or tend to be going through the same things with every man, even though all of these men are completely different in nature, in background, backstory, history, skill set, mindset, but they tend to be going through the same things, and this is why. So when you encounter a woman that has low self-awareness, you'll notice that she almost tends to be running on autopilot. She almost tends to have a knee-jerk reaction to everything. There's no, like I've just mentioned, there's no levels or deeper, I guess, insight to her own personal operating system or to her own, I guess, encyclopedia of knowledge for herself. She tends to either move off of past experience or what she's been taught to believe, and never really challenge or innovate or create her own operating system or belief system in that way. So, you know, you got some women out there that may be into, like, you know, astrology, science and shit like that, but on the greater side of things, you know, that is still a form of groupthink when you just associate all of your behavior with just one particular thing. You know, so even if you are a fucking Capricorn or Taurus or just whatever the fuck, you know, that's cool. You know, if you're somebody who finds that type of stuff interesting or you connect with that information, but, you know, you still have to dig a little bit deeper. I encourage people to take the MBTI test, so that'll help you kind of decipher your specific cognitive functions. That will help you decipher, you know, how you may think about shit, or why you think that way about stuff, or just how you're naturally built as a person. I think that's a better, maybe more credible test that's free. You can also take which I've taken recently, I've taken the, I think you pronounce it Enneagram type test. So that breaks you up into, I think it's 9. You can fall into like 9 different categories with like a subcategory going either way. That's a really good indicator too to how you were built, and that kind of taps into a deeper level of, you know, why you do certain things you do, or why you think the way you do, or where that or those things may stem from or come from. So the number 2 thing would be low self-awareness. If you're running into a lot of issues with women, or you kind of feel like, is this girl possessed or some shit? Like, it seems like, you know, what she's saying. And a lot of times guys will say that, you know, how she acts or what she's saying or what she's doing doesn't even apply to our situation. So she's like really creating shit that either doesn't exist, or she's taking one problem and turning it into another problem, or creating additional problems based off one maybe misunderstanding or miscommunication point, or, you know, some type of, I guess, misfire in the relationship, or some type of discrepancy. And she's taking it and she's, you know, taking something that's level 2, turning it into level 10. And then what she's complaining about or upset about doesn't even relate to or is related to the issue at hand. So you could be dealing with any of those issues due to lack of awareness. So I encourage everybody, men and women, to really invest in knowing themselves from a data perspective. So take a personality type test, you know, venture into yourself, try to assess yourself from a data perspective. And you don't have to believe it all as religion, but it's really good to explore those things and figure out what you may or may not connect to. And then, like I said, create your own logic, your own reasoning, your own handbook, and your own set of rules for how you govern yourself as a person, especially as an adult. All right. And then let me pull up my last point. The last point is most women are going to be entitled. So this is probably the most popular thing, especially amongst guys. You get with women and they expect this and they want that, or they feel like, you know, you should be doing this or should be doing that, or, you know, a man should take care of me, a man should be doing this, and, or, you know, jumping through these types of hoops or whatever. At least in man world, that's how we internalize it, right? A lot of women will have these checklists, and, you know, it's because of how they're built and how they're raised, you know, that they're going to have, you know, these types of checklists, and they're going to feel like, you know, a man owes them something, a man is supposed to protect them, a man is supposed to provide them some certain type of security. And what happens is that they don't realize that they come into a situation, you know, with the gimme, 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 you know, mindset, and a receiving mindset, and they never really understand that they're not really giving anything back to the situation, or they feel like somebody should be, you know, in a sense, serving them or going to work for them, or, you know, operating as like their little mini employee or like their little minion or some shit like that. And as a grown-ass man, you don't want to feel like, you know, you're not in a equally yoked partnership, or there's not some type of give and take, or there's not some type of leverage factor for both parties. So a lot of women feel entitled to these things. They feel like, you know, either through upbringing or through media or through personal perspective, that you owe them some shit. And there's a lot of different subcategories to women feel like you owe them some shit, and that's a whole separate video. So I'm not gonna touch too much into that. We'll go over that later when it comes to ownership versus quality of experience, or QOE, which is what my acronym for it, but we'll talk about that in another topic. I hope this video helps men pinpoint kind of what may be going on in their relationship or their dealings with women, and I hope this kind of helps women maybe pinpoint some things that they can improve on and really work on moving forward. See y'all later. Peace.